we'll just turn it over to you to share what you would like to share with the Interfaith Roundtable.
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you
it's
guys.
Just so good to see all these beautiful, familiar faces that we've known for so many years. Oh my God, right? And now we're coming together in this amazing, interesting time that we're in.
Now we're in the Hollywood. Now this looks like we're on the Hollywood Squares,
Something
basically.
that we will always remember. I was teaching my granddaughter on the mainland a voice lesson this morning, and I said, and she's 9 years old, and she's getting tired of the Zoom thing because they're not going to be able to go back to school. They live in New Mexico, and I just said, Iris, someday you're going to be able to sit your grandchildren on your knee and tell them all about that thing called COVID-19 and how you made your way through it. So thank you for having us. And a lot of you already know, but most of you already know us, but we were asked to speak about our spiritual journey and also about how we feel that faith communities can come together during this time. So we have a whole a bunch of stuff we want to talk about and regarding all of that. And first of all, we wanted to tell you what CSL Kauai's mission statement is, and because we've kind of refined it. And right now our mission statement is to awaken humanity to its magnificence by crossing the bridge from duality to unity. We feel like we're all on that bridge somewhere and we're making our way to this total oneness with each other and with our planet and with God and all of it as one thing. And so that is and so we feel like the more people can recognize their magnificence and recognize their divine selves and live from that place, the closer we're going to get to being that spirit of oneness. And gosh, can you imagine what the planet will be like when that happens? Because I think we're all moving there in our own individual way. So we were going to just tell you a little bit about ourselves first. Some of the stuff you might not even know. So hopefully we'll touch upon some things that might amuse you. So, and that you'll find to be, oh, I didn't know that about them. So Patrick's going to go first.
Yeah. Did you do this part too?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
When we get to CSL.
Okay, good. Okay. So we kind of broke it up for all of us today. We're going to tell our stories individually as our spiritual journey because most of the time Rita and I are kind of clumped together as one unit, and we are, but as you know us, we are very individual and yet a perfect balance, what I think, in running CSL Kauai and all of the work that we do. We're just very fortunate to work this much with one another and yet still stay individualized and still be able to come together as leaders, spiritual leaders. But some stuff I just wanted to tell about my spiritual journey. I started, and don't be afraid if I say I started out in 1979. I'm not going to go through every year. It's like it's always frightening when someone says a date. They go, well, in 1958. You'll go, oh my God, this will be until 3 o'clock. But I just wanted to give a few highlights that brings me to this moment that we're all sitting here, and that's that I moved to LA in '79 to pursue an acting career. It was everything that I'd always wanted as a kid and more, and to go to LA. What I'm finding out today as I was looking over my life quickly is that everything I have done has been my spiritual journey, especially acting, which I thought it was about me becoming famous and all of that kind of stuff, to some degree, right? But I realized that all my work and all my incredible training throughout the years, from moment to moment, acting and finding the purpose in your character and finding the purpose in the scene, all of a sudden has aided me like I cannot believe, and I'm so grateful for the 25, 30 years I put in to this particular career or art or whatever you want to call it. But I went after it as a career. And then I lived in 3 different places: New York, LA, and New Mexico. New Mexico, once again, is where I met Rita, and I had a studio there, Feren Studios and Unlimited Productions, which is funny because as we started this, I see the similarities in starting also a studio and then also starting a center like CSL. I was raised Catholic. I was a wonderful, wonderful little Catholic altar boy, and I do not consider myself a recovering Catholic. I consider myself a discovering Catholic. And I discovered a lot from being Catholic and discovered a lot through that. And I discovered things that did work for me and things that did not work for me. So after I kind of let that go around high school, when given permission from my parents to say, you don't have to go to church anymore if you choose not to, we would love you to do that. But if you don't want to, you're free. So I freed myself and went to the Shirley MacLaine out on the limb college of fine spiritual knowing, and discovered through everything from rebirthing, you name it. I went through it, and once again, I discovered so much about myself. And so then I discovered in 94, 92, this thing called science of mind. And I thought, oh my God, this is exactly how I thought when I was a Catholic, when I was at Shirley MacLaine's College of New Age. And I just realized that, oh my God, here I am. Everything that I had been leading up to led me to science of mind, and it spoke to me and resonated to me. And it's because it encompassed everything. And the founder who allowed everything to come, synthesize all the great mystics, everything I could ever want to know was there for me. So I started taking classes. I met Rita through when I was in Science of Mind, religious science, they called it in those days, which was not a popular name, by the way, because nobody wanted religion and nobody wanted science. So it was not the most popular thing to be in, not really good at cocktail parties. But I continued on through that. I met Rita, and she said, you do your thing and I'll do mine. And I continued on and worked a lot with youth. And then we came together, and I went right into practitioner training, which is very different, that people don't know about. I mean, Suzanne would know, but or anyone else who's had to go through ministerial school. It's a long process, a total process of about 10 years for myself. Because you go through practitioner, and then you go through your ministerial, and ordination doesn't come upon when you actually finish and become a minister. It comes later, as all of you experience, because most of you were there at the ordination here on the island. And we got that from when we go there. That's when we make kind of more of a marriage that says, okay,
We got a ring.
we even got a ring with it. Very, very popish, you know. But what was great about it is that that's when we truly commit. Like, I've done this. I've been on the island. We started a center. Do you really feel like going all the way, the whole 9 yards? And we said yes. And now that's when you met us, and we'll tell more about that later. Rita?
Yeah, so I too have been on a spiritual journey my whole life from the time I was a little girl. And I grew up Catholic too. And what I remember is I didn't even want to be a nun. I wanted to be a priest, because I would pray. I would hold all the funerals for all the animals in the neighborhood, you know, any bird that died or anything, you know. I married my 6-year-old, 6-year-old brother to his girlfriend. When they wanted to get married, I wanted to be a priest. I used to give communion with my little cough drops and stuff. So that's really kind of an interesting part of me that I realize now that I am not a priest, but a minister. So obviously that was something that I wanted from a very early age. So, but I was brought up Catholic, and I moved to the New Age movement. No, but not yet. I entertained a lot of different faiths before I moved into the New Age movement. And I don't want to talk about particular ones, but I moved into the New Age, just like Patrick, because I moved into the New Age movement when I was in the 80s, the late 80s and early 90s, when it was really big to, you know, do crystals and all of that stuff. And Shirley MacLaine, and I did that whole thing. We have really similar backgrounds. It's really interesting. But what happened is, what I realized is that what I really was looking for all the time was God. like what was God and where was God? And I think when I find the science of mind and spirit, when I first found it, he was in it before I was, and we were living in New Mexico, and he kept inviting me, and I kept saying no, because I had just come out of a very dogmatic fundamentalist religion, and I was like, nope, I'm done, never again, never again. And so I didn't really entertain it till I moved to Los Angeles, because I too was trying to be an actor. And I did spend a lot of time in musical theater and singing, and I studied professionally to be a singer and all of that, and then went to Los Angeles to pursue it professionally. But what happened was I found a center. He took me to a center. I finally went, and when I heard the minister speak the first time, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can understand this. I can understand that God is within me, and that presence lives through me. I can understand that. So I just jumped right in, and we've been in it I've been in it for over 20 years now, and I feel like it just has brought me home. And what I like about it for myself is it's open, because now as I'm expanding, and I'm expanding in the science. Ernest Holmes once said that science and religion would walk hand in hand, and he was looking forward to that day. And that's what's happening now. Science is beginning to walk hand in hand with spirituality, with great teachers like Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza and all these people that are coming forward to Bruce Lipton to let us know what all the mystics knew. They knew it just intuitively. Jesus knew it intuitively. All the prophets, everyone knew it intuitively. But now science is going, wow, okay, there is one field of energy. We can see it now. We understand. We can put things on people's heads and register that when they think positively and when they meditate together as one, that something happens in the magnetic field of the earth. I mean, they're proving it now, what we all knew as, intuitively. And which brings me to what the science of mind is, if you're not familiar, and I think maybe most people are, but I just like to say it anyway. I do it every Sunday, is that it's basically, it's very simple. It's two things. It's love and it's law. And love means spirit. Love means God. Love is the energizing force of the universe that moves through all of us. It's love. It isn't anything but that. So when we feel that love is not there, it's because we've covered it up somehow. We've covered it up. So the whole goal is to reveal love, right? You can't ever lose it. It's always there. It's like the story of the prodigal son. And when the prodigal son turned toward the father, then the father turned toward the prodigal son. He never judged him. He was always there all the time. So it's that sort of thing. So it's love, and then it's law, because there is a law that runs, that moves the universe, that is exact, that has no feeling to it. It just says yes. So when you're coming from this power of love, and you're thinking in, we know that there's an energy that when we think into it, it reacts to us. And it's like when you drop a pebble in the water and it goes out and it comes back to you. That's what law is to me. And so I do my best. I don't always succeed, but at least now I know when I'm off the mark. I go, no, I don't do that. We don't ever want to do that. But when I know that I'm off the mark, I know how to get back on. And it's always to go back to love. It's always that, and especially self-love. So I feel we have a form of prayer that we use that's called spiritual mind treatment. And we all have forms of prayer, and we know how powerful prayer is. I know that's why Hurricane Douglas decided to head north, was because we were all praying together. And you can't fight that, right? Our form of prayer is affirmative, and it basically is, we pray the solution. We already know it is. It's like what I said about love. We know it's already here. But whatever it is, if it's abundance or health, it's already here, and we just have to reveal it within ourselves. And so spiritual mind treatment moves that energy in that direction that we direct it. And we can do it, and we're basically speaking into the one field of energy. And then when we're doing it for someone else and it's receptive, then I'm going to hit my husband in the face. When we're receptive to it, then it has to unfold. So I use this in my life, and it's worked. It works. I know it works. And it's very direct. It's very direct. When you direct the energy, you have to direct it, like Ernest Holmes said, you have to be direct with it. You have to know that that power that comes through you can direct that energy, just like Jesus. When Jesus said, greater things than this shall you do, he was talking, and his whole ministry was about moving that energy, moving the law, moving for healing and all of that. So we took Jesus seriously at his word and believed that we could do it too, and that the miracles didn't end at his time, that they continue and they continue and continue, and we continue to expand. That's probably why he said greater things shall he do, because he knew that as we learn more and as we grow, we're going to be more able to do greater things and to really make a difference in this world. And this world needs us right now. It needs all of us, all of our light workers that are, each in our own individual way. We need, we say this to our congregation every Sunday, we need to step out and step into our, whatever that gift is that we have to give. And everyone is unique. So we need to do it now. Now's the time to shine our light. And so anyway, but we're going to talk more about that later. So I think that was what I wanted to say about myself.
I just wanted to jump in with the Jesus thing because it is brought up a lot about what is your belief in Jesus. And so it's not that we're trying to convince you or tell you, but we find that a lot of people who come to CSL and who know about us really do not know what we necessarily believe, because we are pretty open at the top, and there's not a person that could walk in these doors that would not be welcomed, because we all come from the exact same thing, no matter what path we may be on. But the point of Jesus, why I tell the truth about that Jesus for us as a group of people, a community that comes together, is that Jesus is the great example and not the exception.
The wear show.
And that's what Rita was saying. But it's important that people know that from my perspective, because a lot of times in our organization, we try to please everyone. So we kind of make it watered down a little bit so that everybody will think that, like they'll say, I hear you talk about Jesus a lot. And I said, yes, actually, in the Science of Mind text, it's all over the place. Oh, so you believe he's your personal savior. Now, if you want to get into some aspects, anything that allows you to move through this world in a better way and more from love, then yes, perhaps it could be called that. But I also do not want people coming in on false information, because no one is, our Savior is within ourselves. And if it's Christ consciousness, that's great. Call it whatever you want in names. But it's very important, because I've had people say, not a lot, but say, I was a little misdirected. Because you mentioned Jesus so much, I thought that he was your personal, that it was your personal savior.
But what he is, and Ernest Holmes would tell you this too, is the perfect embodiment of the Christ consciousness. This is a person who embodied the Christ consciousness with no exceptions, and that's why he's our great way shower. So we love him.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason we say that is it's important because Rita and I just on another are called purists, if you would like to know. And sometimes people can think of that as restrictive or fundamental. It is not. When I say purist, we believe in the pure spirit, the pure energy that lives through each and every one of us, that I'm looking at here on the Hollywood Squares, and that we're looking at in the whole entire global community. So that's important for me to really live by that. So when people say you don't allow this, you don't allow that, on this island especially, I just want, why don't you do this, or why don't you have this? Because there's plenty. Course of Miracles, Annalie, is a perfect example. Completely, I quote the Course of Miracles. We love that it's there, but we wouldn't have it here, because this is Science of Mind and Spirit. That's why the island is so wonderful, because we have so many different ways of approaching it, and we can still all come together today to share our stuff, and it's no different at the end of the day. But that's why we don't. Another thing I just want, while we're on the CSL, is that some people say, do you have AA there? We are so supportive, but we don't need to do it here because, like a lot of my brothers and sisters said, we got plenty of places to go, Patrick. We don't need it to be right there at CSL. So that when they say purist, we just mean that we're here to inform people what science of mind is all about. So just in case. One thing I'd like to do is give us, some of you know, I'm thinking of Suzanne, because I know Suzanne pulled me up off the ground when I first got here. So we want to give a little bit of, literally. So we want to give just a little background of what brought us to this moment. 2013, I came over here by myself. I knew one person. We came here on a vacation, and Rita got off the plane. We went to the Kauai Beach Resort, and she said, I think this is the place. And I said, well, that's nice, because we knew we wanted to found our own. We didn't want to go into someone else's center for spiritual living and candidate. We didn't want to go through that. We knew we had a purpose. And so when we got here, she got off. I said, well, we should check the other islands out at least. You can't just drop off in a plane and say, let's go for it. She was already at the Better Business Bureau trying to set up how we were doing it. And this was our first vacation in like 13 years. So I said, let's take some time. Well, you know, if any of you know Rita, she's, let's do it, you know, yesterday, and it happened. So there we were, and we went back immediately and said we're going to come over here. So I decided to move first only because everything I had done had kind of let itself go, and I was available to come here and start the seeds. The one thing that's very interesting is the hardest part of my trip, and if you've ever been in the center the first 3 years, was Patrick's messages always surrounded his mother. His mother, constantly. Why? Because my mom was 93, I believe, when we left, and I'm the only only kid. My brother has passed away, my father is gone, so. And my mother was leaving twice and decided to stay. But in that middle of deciding to stay, we had already decided to go. So the reason I tell that is because that's a part of my story and the feelings underneath it that did not make my beginnings here as joyous as I believe they could be. Because every place I had ever gone in my life and started something, New York, whatever, New Mexico, I was always excited, but when that plane came to Lahui, I wanted that plane to continue to go around and never land. Because I knew that once this landed, that my whole life would be different, and I'm glad of what it is, but I still carry my mom in guilt for about the first year. And so I believe that when we are in things, that sometimes there's a self-punishment that one can, nobody in this room, but for me, I discovered there was some self-punishment. So I call it the fall of Princeville. And so I was here doing classes, 4 agreements, and I lived in Princeville in a little, I call it, what is it? The Copacabana, the little cabana up there. And I went running with an extreme amount of negativity, because I can be honest, 7 years later, we mature. And so I walked out on the day after my birthday, and I said, I was very stressed, and I said, just give me a break. God, give me a break. So down he goes and dislocates the shoulder. And now enter Suzanne, who's Gina from up north, and who's my other one? Romaine.
Romaine.
Right. So anyway, that was my humble beginnings. That was without Rita. And so I say that because I would like pity and all of your feeling bad for me today. But I tell it for a really important reason, because when we know that we are purpose-filled, sometimes we have to make decisions. And I wasn't popular with a lot of people because I was like, you left your mom, you know, how could you do that? Nobody leaves their mother. And I didn't leave her like on the side of the road. Rita was there, and we were getting her into her home. And so it was a very hard beginning for me. But what was great about that, and I think it was somebody had said it was so wonderful that the community came together that didn't really even know me and supported me through that time when Rita wasn't here. And I know how much that meant to me because I also knew there was a purpose. Well, my mother passed away a year after that, as a matter of fact, within the year. And we started at the Aston Aloha, as many of you may know, and started in it, which is very funny now, because we started with about 30 people, and now we have 30 people because of the COVID. So it's like, let's start at the very beginning. And so everything that we did through that time, most of you know now because we have our celebrations, and we just kept contributing and knowing that this was the right thing to do. But the purpose, I think, is what held us together, and us being able to work together side by side. Because when we first came here, they said, don't be silly. You don't have any money. This was our organization. You have no money, no grants, nothing. So one of you needs to work, and then the other one needs to minister. And that way, when you get yourself your feet on the ground, then you'll do it. And then both of us said, if we do that, then we're not going to do the CSL Kauai. We're going to do this together. We're going to do this at the same time and do that. So
I just want to add something to that. It's because when we were actors, that's what we did. We would be actors when everything's okay. And so we'll take all these other jobs, and then we'll be actors. And then we were like, okay, now, I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give myself a plan B, because when I give myself a plan B and my plan A is over here, then my plan A becomes my plan B. And then it never happens. And so it was like, when we got to that point, we were like, no, we're going to make this work. We're going to do it. And it's interesting because some people think that they subsidize you, like the main office, like some churches do, but they don't. And I read something about Ernest Holmes, which I thought was really, I didn't knew that about him before, but when he was first putting people out into the field to start churches, he didn't give them any money either. He said, if they're going to make it, if the minister's good enough, they'll make it. And that's what we need, good ministers. And so they didn't subsidize people. I mean, we got grants. We got not grants, but we got donations and stuff like that when we first started. But it wasn't like a mother church came in and said, here's some money to start your church. So, and I just wanted to add.
Well, we were just saying, it's nice
Anyway,
that we're even
COVID.
we're having this conversation, because somebody even said the other day, they said, oh my, I said, well, we have to re-up our lease, which when the Aston let us go because they were closing down, and we knew that we had to go here. We ended up at this one. But a lot of people, they said, oh my God, what do you mean renewing your lease? You have to pay rent where you're at? And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's so amazing how I think everybody knows that, of course, you're running a business, even if it's that. So,
Anyway,
so we were up to 110 people on a Sunday, and then March 15th, COVID enters.
So
and the doors shut.
We have two things that have been really helpful to us. And one of them is that we can never be threatened. And anytime something happens, we remember that we can never be threatened. How can God's spirit be threatened? It can't be, right? And the other one is we start where we are. So that's how we built the center. Like, we just started where we were. We didn't try to project ourselves further than we could afford, or, so therefore we had no debt or anything. So, like, for instance, with our live streaming, we didn't have cameras. So my friend said, what are you waiting for? Just pick up the computer and just put it in front of you and point it, and then you'll be able to live stream. So that was the way we did it to begin with. So this all really helped when COVID happened, because we had to get like really, really creative. I'm going to tell you, it wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy. And we still every day pray. I mean, I know for myself, like, it was like, it almost was like your identity was taken away.
Yes.
Because you had, like, it really made us think, like, why are we really here? To be Big Rita and Patrick? Or are we here for some other reason, What if this was all taken away? Because I don't know how many of you felt, but there was a feeling of like, it's never going to go back to the way it was, and it's going to be totally different. And it was like almost a loss of an identity to begin with. But I was grateful that I had those two things. I can never be threatened, and we start where we are. And so we were fortunate because we did have a lot of things in place. Like our live streaming was really good. We have a beautiful man named Rob Jones who from scratch learned how to live stream us really well, and Jonathan who did our sound. And so we were really set really well. But still, are people going to want to be watching you on a camera when they can't? What they came for was community too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know they come for community, they come to be able to hug each other and talk to each other and eat donuts together or whatever.
All the
So,
healthy stuff.
But we had to just keep going. We were like, at first we were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we were just trying to keep it together. It was so exhausting. We were like exhausting ourselves. I mean, right?
Well, I was saying, if you've ever lost someone, and I know we all have, when they pass and there's a transition, there's an adrenaline that goes through your body that you're wondering why you're still up 5 days later. And you're going, no, everything's fine. And you got this energy that happens. I always compare it to that when somebody passes away and they go, I don't understand why I'm so energetic. That's what happened here. We were almost like, okay, we got to get busy and have something for them 24 hours a day. Connect. It was like it was not healthy, by the way. That wasn't a healthy first approach, but it was one that no one was aware of how to handle any of this. But all I kept thinking was, we didn't work 7 years. We didn't give heart and soul for 7 years to have a door closed in one day, let alone 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. And everybody kept thinking, because the first thing that comes is what? Are they going to financially survive? We have an incredible overhead, for being here, and it's all known to people anyway. But I mean, we're looking at over 10 grand a month that has to come in for CSL Kauai for us to still be here. Or 50, okay, it's a little higher. But anyway, I always like the low ball for a moment. But yeah, so that was the first humanistic approach that got in there before we remembered who really guides who we are, and that's life force. So I knew that life force would never, ever have taken us all together to drop it off here. No, it just could not be. But it didn't mean that we weren't scared. That's what somebody said, well, do you have fear? I said, yeah, all the time with everything that's going on here, but we still go back to principle.
Yeah. So, yeah. What would
Yeah.
something else? Yeah. So I think for me, it was just like recognizing that, what was I really doing?
Mm-hmm.
What was my ministry really about? And it wasn't about a building, and it wasn't about, having a whole bunch of people in front of me. My only goal was to be able to be an inspiration, to be able to inspire people, to be able to lift people up that needed to be lifted up, to just be a light. And you don't need a room to do that in. You just need to be yourself, no matter who you are. You don't even need a ministry. You don't need a following. You just need just being a light in the world lifts the consciousness of the field just by us being lit about what we do or what we are and what we believe. So when I got that idea that it was okay and to stay in the present moment, don't move forward. Don't try to think, don't think things are going to get worse. Don't think anything. Just be right here and right now. And in that movie Frozen 2, I love that line when she said, I just thought to do the next right thing. Just
Right.
do the next right thing. And that's really powerful. And to be okay with it being unknown. It's like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, that's the most powerful moment, is the unknown, when you don't know what's going to happen and you don't have your past behind you, and you're just sitting in this field of potentiality, is when you can start to create. And if you really get there without fear and just be there in that field and allow yourself in your meditations and your prayers and whatever you do to be in that field, no matter what it is you're trying to do. You don't have to be having a ministry. It could be just your life and what's my next step, or what am I going to do about my family, or whatever. If you can just be in that field of untouched potentiality. So that's what I strive to do to help myself through all this. But the next question we got was, was insights and not get burnt out. That's the other thing, like you were talking about, not get burnt out.
We had a
Really,
big
we had to learn that.
Well, the first, one thing I do want to add to it is that we had a little, not dark night of the soul, but right before this happened, we were already questioning on year 7 as we were about to saying, what's the next thing that needs to be done? What's the next thing that needs to be known? I wasn't feeling the excitement. And if any of you know me, what has driven for me personally is when I have passion and I have excitement. If I do not have those two ingredients within me, then it's very hard for me to grow anything, to plant anything. And we were kind of at not a thing like, what are we doing, but more like, we need inspiration over some. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've never been so inspired till March 15th when I got the letter that said close your doors. I was like, well, I guess today might be the day I'm going to figure out exactly what inspires me and what makes me move. So I think that has been a really beautiful, beautiful learning for me through all of this is how our identity, and I'm sure that we can relate to this identity thing keeps coming up. Because what I asked someone in a session, and you're always talking to yourself, by the way, I said, what if they took away everything, Patrick? Took away, you're not a minister, you're not Rita's husband, you're not a teacher, you're not a youth, you're not a son, none of that happens. You have no identity. Who are you? And that was and you know me, it left me speechless, and not many things do. And I was speechless when I could feel that inner child, that thing coming up in me that says, who am I? If I'm not the person inspiring and growing and who am I? And then I went, you're everything. You're okay. You're okay. And then we could start to do the reconstruction, the rebuilding that we're in now.
And we only have a few more minutes. So Wendy asked us, as diverse faiths, networking as diverse faiths, how do we come together? Basically, here it was, insights on how, as communities and individuals of diverse faiths, we can best be a support on Kauai in our present times. And I think that's a really, really good question. And I just wanted to address the individual part of it, because I'm sure people on here do things like this too, but one of the things I do to assist is I give the talents that I have, and I'm a good writer. I love to use social media, and I just put it out there. Like, I just try to put positive stuff out there, and I know, because people have said to me, thank you for what you did that one moment. It was just like what I needed. And I think anybody can do that, because social media is like if you use it properly and it's easy to use, that you can put your stuff out there, no matter what faith you are or what, just to put the more positive stuff we can put out on social media with all the negative stuff that's out there. There's YouTube. YouTube is so easy to use. And if you don't know how to use it, I would say find somebody to teach you how to use it, because it's very simple. Zoom is easy to use. We started doing these little podcasts. You can do a podcast, record it, and then download it onto YouTube so easily. There's, Facebook Live is like a huge thing. People that have churches that can't afford live streaming use Facebook Live, and it's a free service basically if you're on Facebook, and you can live stream your whatever it is that you're doing and put it out into the world. So I think that's one way that really works. I used to be the administrator of something called the Facility Managers Network. It was in New Mexico, and I was their administrator. And they were a group of facility managers who came together that were in the different plants, like Intel and Honeywell and, Public Service Company in New Mexico, all these different big organizations that had facility managers. And they formed a group, and they would come together. And what they did was they shared resources. They just shared their resources. They shared information. They would bring like guest speakers in and help them to be able to do their jobs better, basically. And I thought, yeah, that's a way faith communities could come together to do that kind of thing, to share information and resources. and to face like things that are going on right now that are just like horrendous. Like the suicide rate on Kauai is like, it's horrible, and especially with the young people. So instead of reinventing the wheel, just try to find, if we could, you know, as faith people, if we can find a way to tap into what's already there and help them. Now we've tried with certain things like offering, and sometimes it doesn't work out necessarily, but I think like what were the groups we named? There's so many things like gay pride, you know, maybe not all faith-based people would want gay pride, but just getting involved with that, getting involved with suicide prevention, the Lidgate cleanups, the YWCA, the Boys and Girls Club, the prison. I'm still trying to figure out how to get into the prison because I had a big prison ministry when I lived in California, and I would love to go in there with labyrinth or meditations or whatever. I don't know.
It's an odd thing for someone to say, I've been trying to get into prison since I came here to
Well, it was
Kauai.
hard to get into it in California too, because you had to go through a whole process. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And, you know,
yeah.
and
yeah,
dealing
yeah.
with the you know, like I'd like to know how other ministers deal with like mental illness in their churches and centers, because that's a really big issue for everybody. Mental illness on this island is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know we can be involved with these groups more, and as faith people, I don't know, maybe we can offer them our services more. Maybe we're already doing this. We haven't necessarily tapped in. It takes a really good outreach person in each person's church to be able to do that, to be able to put their hand on the pulse of what's happening. Do you want to answer?
Well, I just want to add, I just want to add that the couple things I've experienced is the biggest thing, even in running the center. That's one of the reasons too why it's hard for us to be involved. I just want to, because we're working so much on, you know, events and the things of CSL, and so, and yet we want to be, you know, have to tap into the pulse of other things, which we do well. Our biggest thing is that we financially give 10% of everything that comes in. That's one of the things that helps a lot of people. Like during the COVID, we took people that weren't, that could not afford something like the Kumu.
No, like Kumu Saber would send me names of people that were people that nourished the island that needed support, and so. Yeah,
so we can do that.
It's easy to do support.
But that's okay, because you write, I mean, not these days, but I wanted to talk about follow through, which is the hardest, you know, it can be. Let's not claim it as hard, but it has been for us. Because I'll give you an example. We've went to many events, and we have offered our space for teaching about mental illness or suicide prevention, what to do if somebody is, and we love the foster care was another one. We loved everything. We said, well, we can't really give all the time that because we're running at 24/7, you know. And I said, but we'd like to offer you our space at least once a month to do these classes, and you can invite whoever you want. It's not religious, do what you need to do. But we never really hear back from them. And so, and that's not from a Rita goes, well, you know, you don't want to get negative on it. It's not negative. It means that they're overwhelmed. It means that if, because anyone who would not take the space, if it's offered to them, I don't even understand that unless you don't like the philosophy, and that's fine too. But I think people, if you're offering to people and they can't, that means that they're not organized with it. And that's organized and follow through are probably, in 7 years, what I've learned to tap the pulse of what's going on out there. Because we sit here today and we want to reach out. We want to give. I don't want another kid hanging himself from a tree. It's ridiculous at this point. But you feel like, well, what can I do? What can I do? And so the first thing we have to do is just continue to love and to realize, you know, the awareness is sometimes, I didn't exactly do that very well. I'm going to be better next time because I love myself enough to do this. So it's not important whether or not they called back. What's important is if there was a follow through, you would call many, 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 many times until you got the answer. Do you want this space or do you not want to use it? Because that's what education is, the biggest thing on the island that I feel really goes out. I mean, mediation's another one. I know a lot of people do that. I'm hearing great things, but I don't know. I think it would be nice if we could all be at least connected to it. At least have your little finger on the pulse in case you need something. So that's where I say is to, how do we get more organized? I have no idea in the fullest, except to just know we can, and not to overwhelm yourself. Rita and I had a great example, is that we're reconstructing what we're doing with CSL. That's our latest thing. Even down to the services, redoing, thinking, what can we do to make this different? Not different for different sake, but what do people really, another buzz for Sunday and music and all of that. But then I started talking about another thing, because we went away for staycation. I started writing down all the things, and before I knew it, I was so overwhelmed that I didn't want to do any of it. I just wanted to get back to the pool and say, because I overwhelmed myself with excitement, with Rita and I birth a new idea every 3 hours. And so we always have to go. I was given some great advice when I ran my studio. He said, Patrick, I love your energy. I love your ideas, but it's not going to be done, all of them, today. And I remember thinking, are you sure? Are you sure, with that childlike wonder? You sure? And then I said, yeah. So I just think getting more communicating like we're doing now, connecting with all of them.
With already established things, I think that to find out if they need help. Do they know that there's spiritual counseling available, that there's people that will actually go into the prison and talk to people from different faiths? I don't know, maybe they know that already, that there's people that can move, if somebody's asking for a Catholic priest, or asking for a Science of Mind minister, or a Lutheran minister, or whatever, or Buddhist, or is there something? I don't know, but it seems like it's all outreach. There's outreach and networking and outreach, to be able to let people know that there are faith leaders available, and that they want to help. And and not about converting people to your faith, but actually, we go to the Lidgate cleanups. The one thing I know that we can always rely on, because they're very organized, and when they have them, they call us and they say, can you send people out here to help? And we do. So, but not everybody has that. I think they don't. And then you have to go after it. And when you start to get overwhelmed because you're going after it, but it's all outreach.
So we kind of
networking.
We divided ourselves up, gave you a little bit about who we were,
I think we're done.
And we know you're on time schedules. And
do you have any questions? It's 1:03.
If there's anything else you'd like to share or know from us, I would be glad to do that. It was really nice to, I know we all know each other, but sometimes we don't really know each other all the way, into areas that are just really nice to know about each other, what's really at the heart of who we are, opposed to, them. So, Wendy?
I just would like to suggest that everyone who's in the Hollywood Squares, just to have an opportunity to either ask a question or make a comment. And I'm very touched by your talk, sharing that it hasn't all been a bed of roses, and being very open with your doubts, and then discoveries and rediscoveries. And then it's ongoing. And also your wonderful ideas for what we can do, particularly in two areas. One is individually, we're a part of groups, and I just made me realize perhaps we should all individually assess what our strengths are. What do I have to offer? I don't have computer skills to offer, so I won't be silly, but I have other things. And maybe you think you don't have any skills to offer, but to look more humbly and deeply. And the other thing is networking, but not in an official sort of success or failure way, but just maybe, a little more open about what networking means. So anyway, you gave us lots of good ideas, but I think everyone should have an opportunity to question or comment.
Okay. I like that, Wendy, success or failure. That's what stops us from doing, instead of going, there's no success or failure, and us attempting to do something good, right? So, yeah. Thank you. I took that from you.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Analia, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You have to unmute yourself, though.
I did. I just did now. Yeah, I retired the 29th of February and went to Washington to spend a spiritual journey with my mentor and ended up taking care of him until he passed. And
Oh,
for 3 months. And I got back in June, had my quarantine the day after my grandkids came over for a month. So I'm like, but now I'm feeling like I have time to breathe, and I'm feeling like I'm excited, but I love what you're saying. I mean, I worked at KEO for 2 years, and that is we deal with the homeless, we deal with the shut-ins, we deal with the people who can't pay, the people who are like literally on the street, mediation. I mean, we deal with like corporations dealing with the common man rather than going to court, and it's great. And I always felt like having a beautiful resource of like spiritual things, and one of them was the prisons. I mean, especially we have someone, I don't know, but someone that we love in our spiritual community ended up being in prison, and it's like, who can go in there? How, and we were out, people were asking around, how do you get to go in there? And I know that Tom Carpenter had a prison ministry until they found out, like he's teaching about, in the Course in Miracles, they say ultimately no one is guilty. Well, that didn't go over very well in the prison. So, there were things that had to change, but, I've written, these things: suicide, Boys and Girls Club, prison, LGBTQ, mental illness, homeless. And I'm thinking one of our agenda items today was, what are we going to do for the International Day of Peace? What if we got what we as a round table of the faiths on the island could just come together and say, and create, like you were talking about, a booklet. Were you talking about the booklet? No, that was something else I was reading. I was listening to the candidates this morning on a YouTube thing. But anyway, what is it that each one maybe could do? What is it that they could offer? What is, like something like that? I really like, that idea. And the other thing I was going to ask is that I got a call from Daniel Nelson the other day, and he said, we haven't even decided what IROC's going to do for the International Day of Peace. And he asked me what we were doing, and I said, I'll tell you after Friday, because you were going to do something. So what day is it that you guys are doing something?
No, we're not doing it. It's
for
not peace. This was a telethon. It's
fundraiser.
our first fundraiser because at our birthday every year we do a fundraiser, whatever it is, to raise money.
We're doing a telethon.
We're doing like a Jerry Lewis telethon.
A Jerry Lewis telethon.
And you're saying that's Saturday?
Yeah,
Saturday from 10 to 3. And we have written, yeah, 19th. But the Peace Day is on the 21st.
Online.
And it's online. It's not in person. It's
Okay.
the whole country.
I was just wondering, like, what, do we combine? I just didn't know what time it was.
This is just a separate fundraiser that happens to be on the 19th, that happens to be around the time of peace. But we are interested in doing and combining peace and on something else, but not on this. It wouldn't.
It has nothing to do
This is a bunch of entertainers and people doing
it's
talks.
gonna be
like a show, like, so if you tune in, you go, yeah, exactly.
Jerry Lewis.
You come in and you go, I want to pledge for CSL Kauai. And then you go, yeah, we just got a pledge over there. And so we're trying something absolutely brand new.
Something crazy fun.
Because we need to have something fun, folks. Something fun.
Yeah, so. But
And it's, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up. It actually is a community builder because it's the people from the community, and if you have something to offer, let us know too. Because we're still taking people into these slots. But what it does is there's going to get to know people that you didn't know before, and that people didn't know on the island, because they're not all from CSL Kauai. They're from different spots of the island, different performers, different whatever. So we felt like it was kind of a win-win, because now we get to see stuff from, like, Jonathan Lee's a great example. We never get to see him when he speaks, and now he's going to do a power talk about whatever inspiration, whatever
it has to be about inspiration.
It's about inspiration.
That's your theme, inspiration.
Yeah, the theme is inspiration. So my point is, it's time that, and that's why the wonderful thing about this technology, it allows us to be connected to people that go, I don't really want to go in there at the professional building, but I don't mind turning them on to see what's going on, because it's a beautiful way to be voyeurs and never have to even know you're there. So we're excited about adding that to our list. So yeah, we're in a different thing with, it just
Yeah,
happens to be on the 19th.
Centers for Spiritual Living is doing Peace Day on the 21st. They're asking centers
Oh yes, we wanted to talk to you about this.
hold a meditation at 1 o'clock their time, and then they're going to put it on their website. I haven't looked into it yet. The deadline's like
We just heard about it
August
today.
7th to hand your thing in, and basically you're just holding a meditation, and everybody's meditating at 1 o'clock.
Kind of like a
through the day, right?
convergence type thing, where we're all doing it.
I need to look into more of what it is. I don't know.
Talking about universal CSL, all the centers.
CSL.
All of them internationally, and we just heard about it.
Where is the headquarters? What time?
Golden,
Golden,
Colorado.
So that's
And
4
by the way-
hours ahead of us?
They're 4 hours, yeah. But they want at 1 o'clock, anybody in any time zone at 1 o'clock to do it.
So we all do it at
So it's
1,
con-
so
so
we
it's
start
continually-
rippling.
So we ripple it out. So it's just basically a peace meditation.
Yes.
Can you forward a link?
Yes, we will.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll forward it. We just literally heard about it like before we came here, and we went, oh my God, this is a perfect timing just to throw it out. I mean, you may want to do something different, but at least you'll have the information that something's already starting that we can jump in with, instead of, especially with the COVID, it's really hard now because of the groups. Like, we're allowed more than 10 because at least for today. But if we were to go to Lidgate, it's been a hit and miss.
This is why we didn't do our thing at Lidgate, was because our big birthday, because we didn't want to be responsible for having to social distance 100 people and have them keep their masks on. And people think, oh, well, but if you're a business or if you're an organization, you have a responsibility, and you surely don't want to get fined, put in jail, or cause a problem. So we were like, no, we're not gonna go through the stress of that, of having to figure out how to corral 100 people at Lidgate Park. You know what I mean? So. And
then that's the thing too that we're all experiencing, is that I was waking up like nights in sweats going, 100 people at Lidgate, now we don't have a permit, but they said we could sneak in, and I'm going, wait. And so I went, I meditate, an hour a day, and I couldn't even get past the meditation. I was sweating so much. So we finally said, this might be this might be an idea about stress, that perhaps if you're this stressed that it's not really in God's plan or in the universal flow. But what we learned from it, for those of you who watched the beautiful Sacred Earth Choir, is that I was so stuck on what had to be, that it was interesting to watch me say, okay, if you could just stay out of last year right now and come to this year, to watch it, it made tears come to my eyes, that we sat in a room, we had to excuse everybody from coming, our regular 30 people or 25 people, and let the Sacred Earth Choir and Sabra, and I just went, wow. That's the lesson learned, that this can be just as beautiful. This can be just as beautiful, even though we want our trees and we're in this room. But it was a very great learning lesson. So there you go.
Yeah, we have to think out of the box. We can't try to make things the way they were, because they're not the way they were now, and who knows if they'll ever be. I don't know what's coming up. I was going to stay right here in the present moment.
But that's good for IROC too, right? Everybody can start thinking out of the box. And maybe it was time to, kind of get rattled up so that we can think new again and start brand new, like we never did it before, and maybe out of that birth, maybe something's really going to happen that, not really, maybe it is going to be, because it'll be a brand new birth. Suzanne, I think you had your hand up about 10 minutes ago, didn't you? Sorry. Were you done, Analia? Were you complete?
Suzanne, have a chance. I had something else, but go.
You unmute yourself.
Analia, please go ahead. You had a train of thought.
Sorry.
Thanks for
No,
asking.
it's not. No, I would like for us, though, to consider like looking at us as well, when you were talking about being out of the box, if you look at the Hollywood Squares, I think every single one of us is out of the box from the box that we were raised in. Every single one of us jumped pretty far, from what we were. So I don't think any of us are afraid.
Yeah.
Because we all have that core of faith. But I do like the idea of, where did I get this idea? But I know that the legal aid actually made a list of how people could be helped, organizations that could help people. There's going to be a huge amount of evictions coming up. When people, because, they were defrayed from having to pay their rent, but now it's going to be, now you got to pay thousands, and it's going to be tough. And so that there were like different things that they could do. But I like the idea of the spiritual support. And we have something, is like, we're not just, the right-wing Christian. I know I worked with a lot of homeless people, and you would be surprised the people that know about A Course in Miracles, let's say, or Unity Church, or, the non-typical things, Buddhism, let's say, or, so there's a whole lot of us on this island, maybe a wandering church, the homeless centers, like, I guess they can be on Anahola, they can be at Lidgate, they're trying to make something. Well, I don't know if they feel like those are really free spirits. Maybe they don't feel they need church, but the prison thing would be nice for us to get our feet in the door for non-right-wing Christians.
Right. For
I wonder if Jonathan is still on the line, because I only see 9 squares. Maybe he's off the screen. Maybe we don't do more than 9
we would
squares.
see him if he was here.
We would see him.
Unless
Okay.
he's on a phone we would see him.
So,
Okay.
Suzanne?
Yeah, because he's very interested in making connections and wants to put together a directory of everything going on spiritual.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But as he does that research, he can do this research of how we can support one another at the same time as that research. But he's quite committed to it, and I wish he was here to share his vision, which is similar.
I'll outreach to him. I'll call him.
Yeah.
It's
So
not always easy to reach, though, actually.
Okay,
Hear
Suzanne?
from Suzanne.
I know you guys are running, so go ahead, Suzanne.
do you have anything to say in response to our talk?
Suzanne had a question or something.
She was going to respond to Suzanne.
I know that Rabbi Rob and I have been talking a lot, and he has a big outreach, big constituency, and I know that he would like to be a part of this. I'm just throwing that in because he asked me to. So I do think that one of our jobs coming up is to redefine now in this new old time, who and what we are, and what we are not only capable of doing. I hear a lot of what we're not capable of doing. What are we willing as an organization to do? And who are we now, in the now? And, that's a wonderful thing for us to reinvent ourselves. I'm just throwing that out. Perhaps we could have a roundtable amongst ourselves to do just that.
Mm-hmm. I think we're all being asked to do that. That's a big theme right now.
You can't put Humpty back together again.
The one invitation I have to all of us, no matter where we're at in this, is that it just came to me just intuitively to really not overwhelm ourselves, because ideas get really excitable, and then we get and the reason that we talk about what we don't do or what we can't do is because we try so many things at the same time, and then if they don't all come through, then we feel that success or failure that Wendy was talking about. And I think it's really important, and I'm the key one of my life, is that to pick something and let that be filtered out, so that, because what we sometimes don't have, at least us, is we don't have manpower to back the great ideas that Rita and Patrick wake up with in the middle of the night. And then we get excited and then we realize, oh my God, I don't have the manpower. But if we didn't try to do it all and took one little section and said, let's work on this. Let's redefine ourselves. And then from that redefinition, then we can do this or check into this. But do you see what I mean? Sometimes we get, and I've noticed it too when we were coming to IROC a lot too, where we had so many ideas, but then they went a little bit to the south sometimes. And that's not because our hearts weren't there and because we didn't want it, but it was getting that, it happening. And that's why I love what Jonathan, what you were saying, because that would be lovely to look at a book to say, oh, this is what's going on. These are the people, oh, and then you can see it instead of just it floating around in there. So anyway, that was just an invitation.
Yeah, like just, there's a book called The One Thing. I got to get it back out again, but it's where you pick the one thing and you work on the one thing, and usually the one thing will branch out because you've concentrated on that one thing and you focused on that one thing that was the most important thing to you then. And I think if the most important thing is mental illness, or the most important thing is the prison or whatever, just doing that and getting that going and figuring out a way to network there or whatever it is, whatever the one thing is, and then moving out from there, you know, because it does get overwhelming. I know for us, it gets really overwhelming when we try, because you want to do,
Yeah, because we're excited.
you want to do it. You get excited, right?
Right. I resemble that remark.
Hari, did you have something?
Yes.
How are you, Hari?
Oh, pretty good. Real good.
Great.
You look great.
Just some information about prison. I had a contract with the state of Arizona for about 10 years, and they hired me to go into the state prisons. I had to go to all locations 4 times a year, and they have 20 prisons in Arizona. So I spent my weekends and stuff driving around to the edge of the state where they have prisons, and I was hired because I'm a Sikh minister, and they had Sikhs. One of the very few rights you have in prison is the right to practice your religion, and they have an obligation to get people in there. Like if you're a Muslim, they find an imam. If you're a Jew, they find a rabbi. Well, they found me because we have a bunch of Sikhs in prison in Arizona, apparently. They weren't really Sikhs before they got to prison, but they became Sikhs when they got to prison. Partially because they had somebody that would come visit them.
Yeah.
And that's how I got in. And that the state had an obligation to bring us in. So we would work with them. And I taught yoga and meditation to many people. It was pretty much anybody could come to our meetings at all. They didn't have to be a Sikh or registered or anything. And we dealt quite a bit with the prison on a regular basis for almost a decade. Eventually they stopped those programs, by the way. But that's the rights, that's how to get in. The other way to get in is if you find the psychologist that thinks it's useful to have something like meditation rather than what they do in prison here, that they might want you to come in and teach a class about a certain technique or skill that they can get. And those are the only 2 ways I've known to get in. The only other third way is if you know somebody, they can put you on the visiting list and you can go visit them. It's a little different thing, but that's kind of the way. State prison is different than county jail, and there's different things about that. Usually the state has a lot of obligations, but even once in a while the federal government would call and I'd have to go visit one of the federal facilities. It was very interesting too. So I must say I had some of my most interesting stories and experiences teaching in, maximum security and all. You had to wear a face shield, goggles. You had to wear and you had to wear pants. So it was kind of a stretch for me, but yeah. But so there's certain things you had to go through to do that. Just a sort of interesting sideline. What was fascinating, the prisoners got a lot of energy from what we did. But what was interesting, I always had to have a guard with me And eventually the guards, because the guard communities are more toxic than prisoners on some level. There's a lot of violence and alcoholism within their community. So they would often talk to me about the techniques and how they could use them without anybody knowing, you know. So it was pretty interesting working with the prison. And if you get to do that, I'd love to help you. But I don't know how to get into the county lockup here. I know how you get away from, I think you just walk to the golf course, but it's
Worked in the state
not
prison.
an easy thing. And we've had people talk to us previously about the mental health conditions in the county lockup, and they're not optimal.
Right.
Anyway, that's my prison story, and I'm glad to see you all.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, Suzanne?
Al?
Yes,
No.
I had my hand up.
Yep.
Yeah, I just, first of all, I wanted to get my hand up because I might be pulled out of this meeting shortly. I'm still in California since
Oh,
March, helping my daughter out with childcare while she works from home, she and her husband. So my time of day is coming soon, so I might not be on long, but I just really wanted to express my great appreciation for you, Rita and Patrick, for not only all you've done for IROC in the past and your contributions, but for today, which I really personally needed to hear a lot of what you had to say. So I'm not only exploring individually, but I'm also in this exploration with IROC about why do we exist and what do we need to be doing. And you've given me, and I think everybody else, a lot of food for thought. So if my son-in-law or daughter comes running into the room and say, you have to watch Bowie, that'll be the end of the meeting for me. So I just wanted to get my thank you in. Thank you very much.
Deborah, Suzanne has something else to say, I
No.
think. And
I just
Deborah,
wanted to thank you a lot too for hosting us at CSL. And I know that you would prefer not to continue doing that, only because I'm sure your heart's in it, but because of the restrictions and, you know, what it would take to host us. And I know that someday we'll all be together again, but we honor your decision not to have it at this time. I just wanted to make that public because go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure that there's clarity, because I'm all about clarity these days. Since there's not a lot of it going on here, everybody's making up stuff. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about on one day it's one thing. We got people going. What, you have 10 people, 100 people, you know. So this was it. Yeah, we want you to be back here in its full form. Yeah, we want that. So nothing has changed in that area, but we just want to make sure that when that happens, that there can be a monitoring. We're not sure how I mean, everything's a day to day. Today you can have your Sunday, tomorrow they might take it away. So the community knows, we just have to fly with it. So right now it feels like there's tightening us instead of releasing us. So the minute that there feels a little bit of a loosening thing, because they don't even want you eating, you know, when you're together, and they want you to be sitting.
you have to sit 6 feet apart. You have to wear a mask. You can't, you know, so it's a lot.
So we don't want to have to go through. So anyway, that was it. But thank you. And as soon as that happens, then you'll be sitting right there, and you'll be having your wonderful meetings, and we're all going to be back to somewhat of a something. I'm afraid of the word normal because I don't even like the word normal, to be honest with you. I've never been normal in my whole life. So anyway, thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah, and thank you.
I want to thank you for the spiritual sharing. I especially support the view about the inner inquiry when you take away all the roles and ask, who am I? And I sent you a chat, but it didn't appear to go, offering to guide meditation at 1 o'clock on the 21st of September. If you want to talk to me more about what that might be.
I'll find out about it. Let me find out about it first, and then I'll get back to you on it.
That's
and see what
wonderful.
they say. Yeah. I put it off today and not to do it today because I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I've got till August 7th to figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll definitely send it all out to you.
Yeah.
Well, anyone else before we let you get to where you need to be going in this? And he goes babysitting and you guys go getting your final meetings in?
I'm really curious about how the Sacred Earth Choir sang. 30 people all together singing?
They
I
weren't
thought that
many
was
of
a no-no.
You know, this is what I want to talk about, no-nos. You know, this is what Rita and I said this morning. We're doing the best that we can with what we're doing. And so we have been a crew of 9 people, 10 people for 4 months without an audience. And so the best that I felt, and then if it's not, then I'm sure that they'll, you know, then you guys can bail Rita and I out of jail. But I'm just saying that how we looked at it, this was
Well, there were 15 of them, first of all.
there was 15. And so what happened was, it's not, I don't even know, like I told Rita, we don't even know. We got mixed reviews coming all over the island. But what we decided to do was take away all of the audience, the people, and then they had to stay home that day because we do have them coming back. We had to stay home because people are trying to stop the singing. And I say people, I don't know who they are, but there's a lot of people wanting to stop singing because it goes out into the field. We felt that, you know, as safe as we could be was to tell the congregation, the 30 that make reservations, who would ever think you'd be making reservations to go to church was beyond anything I could even imagine. So I believe somewhere in the world is probably a no-no, and I think, but for us it was a go because.
Well, Daniel said we're not going to be able to social distance when we're singing, but we made them wear their masks all the rest of the time. When they came up to sing, they stood next to each other and sang. Now it was probably a no-no, but we were like,
just
you know
like
what?
Sunday, this is how for this moment we do a restaurant feel, meaning that every time you're standing up, if you go to the bathroom, if you do anything, you come in, a mask must be on. The moment you sit down, if you want to take your mask off, you are allowed to do that. Us allowed. Meaning that, but and everyone's been very good because they get up, because I figure I've been to about 4 restaurants and I walk in and I have my thing on and I figure we are feeding something that's just as valuable as the food that are in these restaurants. And so if they walked in or somebody walked in, they would say, you know, that's not permissible, then we would go with that. But until that, if I can do it over at Coconuts, you know, Grove over here, if I can walk into the Olympic Cafe and sit down and take off my mask to be fed, then I feel that would be, and I feel good about, we feel good about that decision. One last thing that the heads up of what it's like to be in this center. You cannot imagine how so many people think we are doing such a good job. Other people think we are doing a horrible job. People think that we are not protecting, you know, the people. And Rita and I work overtime to try to make sure. And at the end of the day, I don't know what the whole, and it's not just towards you, Annalee, I want to really voice it because we get calls from people going, you know, that was 5 feet of distance you had and not 6 feet, but not a lot of people. But Rita and I said, just before we got on this line, I'm going to be really honest since today's a real transparent day. We are tired of defending ourselves to an island, to a world, and guess what the real lesson of this is? It's only a handful of people, but we're making, you know, you make it sound, you know, not you, but we make it sound like that. So yeah, there was some people that said, why were they close together? And then I got a snapshot. It's very funny. So of all the shots, I get one snapshot on, and we film, right? So we got one snapshot, and I'm in the midst of all of Sacred Journey, Sacred Earth Choir, and so it's making me look like I looked at Rita, I go, I give up, because the only other thing is to just shut the doors and you know, we're trying, and I don't think anything besides closing your doors wouldn't satisfy a lot of people at this point with churches. But we are not the same. I was talking to Cindy about that is that we are not on the 10 people thing.
If you look at the proclamation, it says, except for allowed businesses are not included
The
in the
new
10.
amendment, we're talking the new amendment.
The new amendment. He was talking about like social gatherings. So, yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Cindy.
I've had my face off, but I want
I know, I saw you.
We knew
to
you.
tell you that you are doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
there you
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not easy, guys.
So I would say, and I'm glad Cindy, but I would have to say that the hardest part that we're having isn't so much what the world, the global world is doing. It's the difference of opinions on our island within our own communities. And I really say that with my heart full, because I love everybody so much, and I want, and you know, we have just a whole bunch of section of people going on. And my only leftover thing that I would say today is what I say all the time: no matter how hard it is, let's be kind. Even if we don't know why people are doing what they're doing, let's be kind. I have two things now I work with. How can I love more today when I don't want to? Oh, you know what I mean? You wake up and you're like, oh, tuned into that. How can I do that? And thank you for the awareness when I don't do it right, when I think I'm a success or a failure. Thank you for the awareness, because people forget that we get messages every day talking about what something we do right. And it's just amazing. But guess what? There's a million that are saying what you're doing right, and we're just trying to.
Well, as leaders, it's kind of what we sign up for. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, on a bigger scale, that's what we sign up for, right? I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy, and people are going to think you're wonderful, and people are going to think you're.
Yeah, and who are we celebrating this week? John Lewis.
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, I just found a great quote for Sunday's talk from John Lewis. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And thank you always for your continuous support of CSL Kauai, and your love and your prayers. We feel it always. And like, who knows, as it goes, you know, the reason we have not been able to be involved isn't because, you know, we like our God better than your God. No, I'm just kidding. The reason we haven't been able to is because we realized that we were overextended.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to honor that part of ourselves. But it's never because we don't want to support you, and you know that, I'm sure. But I just wanted to make it clear in front of everyone that it's why we love you. We love exactly what we're doing. I love this new idea, whoever said that, I think it was Al, about redefining. It's time for all of us to go back to our corners individually and collectively now, and say, what do we stand for? What do we really, as I said, when you strip it all away, who are we? And then when we come back together as a collective group, there'll be a whole new light. And I'm looking forward to that, because I know it already happened.
Yeah, and I always like to question, is like, I don't remember who said it. It might have been Simon Sinek or something, but it's like to ask, what does the world need right now? Not what do I need, or but what does the world need, and what can I offer to that?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a lot of stuff the world needs right now. One of it is inspiration and guidance and love, right? So,
because there's a lot of scared little, I do a lot of inner child work now, and it's actually increased a lot of my sessions and a lot of things I blend with science of mind, but that people are kind of going back to. There's a lot of scared little children running around inside of us all. Right. I don't care how well you think you have your inner child down, and that little part of us is scared at times and needs that little protection and that love. And so I feel that's one area that I feel blessed that I've been able to give, is this recognition of that inner child. And a lot of people don't like the word inner child because it flips them back to the 80s and 70s and all that stuff. But you know, that child is still within us. And if that's what I do every day, saying, you're safe, I love you. No matter what happens, no matter what they close, whatever they do, you're loved. And I think it'll just help us to love more. Love you guys. We're gonna jump off and go take care of Al's grandkids.
Okay.
And,
Cindy, you look
Bye,
great.
Cindy. Oh, look at you.
No, everybody does look really
You
good.
do. You guys look
Do
and
you have that enhancer on your camera that they have? Did you know you can enhance your face?
Oh my gosh.
You didn't know that.
Look
at your settings.
one thing my new mantra for all of us, everything, let's not go so fast that we don't give ourselves the credit and the deserving of what we have all gone through together as a global planet, to say, I'm so proud of you. And I say that to as many people as I can. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for us being able to do what we've done, and just something that we would never have imagined. And we're still doing it. So I'm proud of me. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of all of us. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, we'll talk soon. We're gonna buzz off.
Oh, cool.
What's next on the agenda, VJ? Gotta unmute yourself there.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I get mixed up if unmute button means mute or unmute. You know, you think it's the opposite. Anyway. Okay. I seem to be missing a page. Yes.
Thanks
Okay.
for all you've been doing, always.
Okay. IROC brochure